Charles III, by the grace of God, King of Canada and his other realms and territories, head of the Commonwealth. Proclamation. To our faithful, the members elected to serve in the Legislative Assembly of our province of Alberta, and to each and every one of you, greeting. Whereas it is our will and pleasure, by and with the advice and consent of our Executive Council of our province of Alberta, to prorogue the first session of the 31st Legislature of Alberta, we do hereby prorogue, effective October 22nd, 2025, the said legislature. And whereas it is deemed expedient for certain causes and considerations to convene the Legislative Assembly of our province of Alberta for the second session of the 31st Legislature, we do will that you and each of you and all others in this behalf interested on Thursday, the 23rd day of October 2025 at the hour of 1:30 in the afternoon at the City of Edmonton, personally be and appear for the dispatch of business to treat, act, do, and conclude upon those things which, in the Legislature of our province of Alberta, by the Common Council of our said province, may, by the favour of God, be ordained, herein fail not, in testimony whereof we have caused these, our letters, to be made patent, and the Great Seal of our province of Alberta to be hereunto affixed. Witness, the Honourable Salma Lakhani, Lieutenant Governor of our province of Alberta, this 22nd day of October, in the year of our Lord, 2025, and the 4th year of our reign. By command. Please be seated.
Order! All rise, please. Mr. Speaker.
Members and guests, the prayer. Lord, the God of righteousness and truth, grant to our King and to his government, to members of the Legislative Assembly, and to all in positions of responsibility, the guidance of your Spirit. May they never lead the province wrongly through love of power, desire to please, or unworthy ideals, but laying aside all private interests and prejudices, keep in mind their responsibility to seek to improve the condition of all. Amen. Elder Saddleback, I invite you to come up and offer a blessing.
All my relations. I'm grateful to be here today. You know, I did 58 years of Sundance. 58 years ago, my Cree Nation of Samson were told never to do ceremony. And then I first came, I was 7 years old, my first Sundance. And they were told, the police that came, if we can't charge him. So we had that Sundance going. For a reason, because reconciliation is important. We have a right to pray our way. And it's no different from the way you pray to Jesus. I always ask for kindness. But today, there's a song that we sang for the king and the queen. I'm the only one left that knows that song, so I'm going to sing that. And it's a prayer song. Say, for the king to be safe, to be guarded, to be protected, and also that treaty right that we have. So I'm going to sing that song here, then I'm going to do a prayer with that. And it goes like this. Que cho que mas que me kono hu kisko e hoen kawa we pasta hoi ai hei ko mi awatama ko nanas ko moya hoi ho hey 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 hoi la ai hoi hoi hey hoi ho hey hoi ho hey hoi hey oh hey oh hoi hey hoi oh hey hoi ho hey hey oh hey ki cho ke mau ke me kona hu kisko e hoen kawa hui pasta hoi hey ko mi watama ko nanas ko moya hoi ho hey hey oh hey hanuta se manto kaksi avatsin ma pepe kanuma igu onko mutta wesso hamahte sa kasti nohkuti tu sana the sun, the thunderbird, the wind, the land kam nuhtaksi manto kaksi avatsin utahanos where there's darkness there'll be light ko mutta homan istanan paksemoe mias kaikop mis on uutta maaluuta. Hanuta se manto kaksi avatsin avasti mau kiama mutta kahki oikekoi niistä aina mutta kooma ste mau tapa ko taksi manto kutta hammaki koi ko mutta homma kooma kalta kap mai siitsike skoge ko mutta homma legislation building ko kalta homma ko kahki oikekoi there's sessions kahki joka miasek Kyogi koi se mias kutta kahki oi sini uhaga nuutta all nations uutta uutta home assembly totama nuhtaakse mantu kiama kutama mamu kamatun nuhta nanto somehow to work together kamiasa kahki ogi koi muknome kinsis miasa kahki ogi koi kahki on our ancestors musom panno kompan kahki oigotti kahki oi se miaski koi maguutta kahki oi sini uhaga na kans tohtameg that's those that are here that speak my language. You hear my prayers there. Tatamatako kista. Niso kamasok. Kahki ogi goyutta. Magek tootse. Smias kahki ogi goy. Utto muhtsa assako muhtse. For the kids that we look for our grandchildren that we look for. Kiota toskon hard work up Ano sinasko mo yan? How? Hay, paitaan. Tekisko minuta. Ski. Aho. Aksa.
Thank you, Elder Saddleback, for getting us started in a good way. Ladies and gentlemen, I now invite Ariana Whitlow, accompanied by the Royal Canadian Artillery Band, to lead us in the singing of our national anthem. Please join us in the language of your choice.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Please be seated. I now invite the Premier to proceed to the main doors of the chamber. Honorable members, I have received from the Chief Electoral Officer of Alberta the report of the returning officer for the constituency of Olds, Didsbury, Three Hills, containing the results of the by-election conducted on June 23, 2025, which states that a by-election conducted in the constituency of Olds, Didsbury, Three Hills was completed, and that Mrs. Tara Sawyer was duly elected as the member for Olds, Didsbury, Three Hills.
Mr. Speaker, I have the honor to present to you Mrs. Tara Sawyer, the new member for Olds, Didsbury, Three Hills, who has taken the oath as a member of this assembly, has inscribed the roll, and now claims the right to take her seat.
Congratulations. Let the honourable member take her seat. I now invite the official opposition House Leader to proceed to the main doors of the chamber. Honourable members, I have received from the Chief Electoral Officer of Alberta the report of the Returning Officer for the constituency of Edmonton Strathcona, containing the results of the by-election conducted on June 23, 2025, which states that a by-election was held in the constituency of Edmonton Strathcona and that Mr. Nahed Nenshi was duly elected as the member for Edmonton Strathcona.
I have the honor of presenting to you Mr. Nahed K. Nenshi, the new member for Edmonton Strathcona, who has taken the oath as a member of this Assembly, has inscribed the rolls, and now is here to claim the right to take his seat.
Congratulations, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And of course, let the honourable member take his seat. But not for long, because I now invite the Leader of the official opposition to proceed to the main doors of the chamber. Honourable members, I have received from the Chief Electoral Officer of Alberta the report of the Returning Officer for the constituency of Edmonton Ellerslie, containing the results of the by-election conducted on June 23, 2025, which states that a by-election was held in the constituency of Edmonton Ellerslie and that Mr. Gertej Brar was duly elected as member for Edmonton Ellerslie.
Mr. Speaker, it is my honour to present to you Mr. Gurtej Singh Brar, the new member for Edmonton Ellerslie. He has taken his oath as a member of this Legislative Assembly, he has inscribed the roll, and he claims to take the right to take his seat.
Indeed. Congratulations. Let the honourable member take his seat. I now invite the Premier to proceed to the southeast door of the chamber. Honourable members, with a complement of 30 full-time professional musicians, the Royal Canadian Artillery Band takes great pride in supporting the 3rd Canadian Division, the Royal Regiment of Canadian Artillery, and the Canadian Armed Forces. The band performs extensively as a parade band and wind ensemble, but they also perform in various smaller groups like we are seeing here today. These include the jazz, brass, and woodwind ensembles. As musical ambassadors, the Royal Canadian Artillery Band regularly provides music for formal concerts, ceremonies, military parades, government functions, tattoos, and special events representing Canada across the country and around the world. Honourable members, I would like to welcome the Royal Canadian Artillery Band to play a brief musical interlude. The piece to be performed is Rondo by Jean-Joseph Moret.
Mr. Speaker, all rise, please. Her Honor, the Honorable, the Lieutenant Governor awaits.
Sergeant at Arms, admit Her Honor, the Honourable, the Lieutenant Governor. The Legislative Assembly has elected me their Speaker, though I am but little able to fulfill the important duties thus assigned to me. If, in the performance of those duties, I should at any time fall into error, I pray that the fault may be imputed to me and not to the Assembly, whose servant I am.
Please be seated.
Mr. Speaker, I am commanded by Her Honor, the Honorable, the Lieutenant Governor, to assure you that your words and actions will constantly receive from her the most favorable construction.
Well, good afternoon all, and welcome to our newest members of the Legislative Assembly. Before we begin the business at hand, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to all members of the Assembly for your dedicated service to our province. The role that each of you plays is important to our system of government, and the work that you collectively do in this chamber is essential to the quality of life enjoyed by all Albertans. I wish each and every one of you a most productive and constructive session. I hope that you will share my thanks with the leaders and volunteers in your constituencies who work so hard to keep our communities and province moving forward. Please also convey my gratitude to your families who make daily sacrifices to support you. With that, I will begin the speech from the throne. 2025 Speech from the Throne. Introduction. Mr. Speaker, honorable members of the Legislative Assembly, and my fellow Albertans, I open this session of the 31st Legislature as His Majesty the King's representative. Today, we gather on Treaty 6 territory, and I invite all honorable members to reflect upon and acknowledge the traditional territories of the First Peoples of this land and their invaluable contributions to our province and country. I also recognize Métis people in Alberta who share a deep connection with this land. Federal and U.S. relations. 2.5 years ago, we gathered in this chamber following the 2023 provincial election for the first throne speech of this 31st legislature. At that time, Albertans found themselves in the midst of a tumultuous political storm that threatened our province's very economic and social fabric in profound ways, as the then federal government's policies constrained our energy sector, interfered in multiple areas of provincial jurisdiction, and undermined the integrity of the power grid Albertans rely on for light and to keep their families safe on cold Alberta winter nights. That political storm then intensified further as our largest trading partner and ally threatened unprecedented tariffs on all Canadian exports headed south, including on all Alberta energy and agricultural products, which would have resulted in tens of thousands of lost Alberta jobs and billions in lost provincial revenues. In the midst of that tumultuous time, at perhaps the most critical juncture in our province's modern history, Alberta's government made a promise in that 2023 throne speech. It was, and I quote, "The world needs more Alberta energy, not less, and Alberta's government intends to empower Albertans to deliver it," unquote. Honorable members, that is exactly what this government has done every moment since that time, and it will continue to do so until the job is done. This government has driven back the anti-energy movement in our country and helped to turn the tide of national public opinion from anti-oil and gas sentiment into a national consensus that Alberta's energy resources are a national treasure that can and must be developed aggressively using the Made in Alberta technologies that allow us to do so in the most environmentally responsible manner. This turning of Canadian political power and public opinion was unthinkable just a few short years ago. Alberta is winning and will continue to win this battle for our freedom and provincial rights because your government believes we are on the right side of history and Albertans will not be denied their prosperous future. As a result, this government is now partnering with Canada's greatest oil pipeline companies and First Nations to end the landlocking of Alberta's oil sands by building new oil pipelines to our nation's west coast in order to access the largest market on earth, Asia. This pipeline will bring wealth and prosperity to millions across Canada, and because it will be co-owned by First Nations in Alberta and British Columbia, no people will benefit more than the First Peoples whose lands this pipeline will cross. It's one thing to speak about economic reconciliation with First Nations. It is quite another to actually do it. And Alberta is leading the way. Alberta is also working with the province of Ontario to build an oil pipeline to southeastern Ontario to ensure the energy security of Canada's two largest provinces, Ontario and Quebec, which currently rely entirely on the US-controlled Line 5 for their energy needs. In addition, this government is cooperating with Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and First Nations to open up the Hudson Bay to oil and gas export and to access the massive European market desperate for a non-Russian supply of energy from a trusted friend and ally. And through hundreds of hours of advocacy and diplomacy, this government has thus far convinced our American friends and allies that they do indeed need Alberta's energy resources. We have shown them that their country enjoys a tremendous amount of wealth and jobs because of the vast amount of energy exports pouring over their northern border from our province. In fact, both the American and Canadian governments now agree that strengthening and increasing the Canadian-US energy partnership will be critical to achieving a lasting and mutually beneficial trade deal for both countries. As a result of this government's diplomatic victory with the United States, the vast majority of Alberta exports, from energy to agriculture and almost everything else, have remained tariff-free. This success would not have been achieved had this province taken a different approach, burning bridges with our U.S. friends while waiting for the federal government to protect our provincial interests, as many in certain quarters demanded. And this government will continue with its direct Alberta-U.S. diplomacy and respectful dialogue rather than using anti-American rhetoric. The results of both strategies have spoken for themselves, and Alberta's approach is clearly the right one. Now, honourable members, make no mistake, the job with the federal government and the Americans is not done. There are many important issues to work through with our federal and provincial partners, along with First Nations, to fully unleash the Alberta energy sector. And the threat of future large American tariffs on all Canadian exports is still a real possibility. But the tide of this nation has undeniably turned, and your government will not rest until Alberta has doubled its oil and gas production, increased and diversified agricultural and other exports to the U.S. and the rest of the world, and restored constitutional balance to this country, with provincial and federal governments working as equal partners, respecting each other's exclusive areas of jurisdiction, while cooperatively working together on areas of shared responsibility. If we wish to have a strong, independent, and unified Canada, this is the way to achieve it. And your government will not stop until that job is done. Economy and budget. Honourable members, although the change in fortunes federally give us much to be hopeful for, Alberta remains in choppy economic waters. The U.S. worldwide imposition of tariffs, world conflicts, and intentional increases in OPEC production have significantly depressed the price of oil, resulting in a loss of billions in royalty revenues and a significant budget deficit after several years of large surpluses. Albertans are well aware of the effects of both high and low oil prices and inherently understand there is no need to panic or overreact. This isn't Alberta's first oil price roller coaster, after all. The vast majority of Albertans do not want deep and disruptive cuts, nor do they want declarations of economic emergency used as a pretext for a proliferation of government programs and spending. They want calm, steady, and smart fiscal leadership until the dip in energy prices inevitably passes, as it always does. They expect this government to continue to hold spending increases to below inflation plus population growth, to find and eliminate government waste and inefficiencies, and to invest wisely in priorities such as health, education, roads, policing, and other core social services. And that is exactly how this government will manage Alberta's current challenging economic situation. However, unlike many past Alberta governments, this government has set in motion a three-part plan to ensure that by the year 2050, Albertans will never again be reliant on non-renewable resources to maintain our low tax advantage and excellent core social services and infrastructure. First, this government is committed to grow the Alberta Heritage Trust Fund to well over $250 billion by 2050, mirroring sovereign wealth funds in other energy-rich nations such as Norway, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. This will be accomplished by prohibiting government from spending the investment returns earned in the Heritage Fund until at least 2050, and instead use those investment returns as well as the bulk of royalty surpluses enjoyed in times of high oil and gas prices to grow the fund dramatically. This effort has already begun to pay off, with the Heritage Fund having grown from $16.3 billion to nearly $30 billion in just the last few years, with the goal of reaching $35 billion by 2027. Second, the government has committed to holding spending increases to below inflation plus population growth. To accomplish this and ensure Alberta's tax dollars are targeted to priorities, your government has launched a cabinet and MLA review of all programs and grants across all government departments to reduce or eliminate spending that has become unnecessary or redundant. And third, the government will further diversify Alberta's economy with a special focus on sectors where the province already enjoys a strategic advantage. The most exciting example of this is Alberta's drive to become a world-leading jurisdiction in artificial intelligence by using our most inexhaustible supplies of natural gas to fuel the massive amounts of power required for AI data centers. This, combined with Alberta's highly educated population and exceptional post-secondary institutions, will be integral to developing and scaling AI data-driven applications in medicine, technology, and every other sector. Alberta is already an energy superpower. Alberta will now also become an AI superpower, making our province a world leader in arguably the world's two most important commodities, energy and computing power. And Alberta will not stop there. Your government will continue to advance our province's emerging industries in aerospace, defense, technology, value-added agriculture and forestry products, critical minerals, alternative energy, and environmental technology, while investing in infrastructure for tourism, arts, culture, and sport. The days of hearing that Alberta needs to start diversifying its economy are over. Alberta's economy is already diversified and will continue to strengthen and grow by turning our province's historic strengths and advantages into future prosperity and opportunity, resulting in an economy and balance sheet that is the envy of the world. Alberta is well on its way. Immigration and infrastructure. Alberta's success comes with a challenge. When people across the country and around the world see the prosperity of those living here, they want to share in that opportunity. The Alberta Advantage has acted as a magnet for population growth for decades. And let there be no doubt how important immigration and interprovincial migration have been to our success. New Albertans from other provinces and countries have been essential to our economic prosperity and rich culture. Alberta's history of healthy levels of primarily economic immigrants able to almost seamlessly integrate into Alberta's economy and culture has been entirely upended by the last 10 years of federal immigration policies, which have resulted in an unsustainable level of newcomers entering our province. This has led to Albertans of all ages, backgrounds, and immigration history becoming concerned with high unemployment, inflation, and substantial growth pressures on our province's social infrastructure. This is why the Government of Alberta will seek to take more active control over provincial immigration in the coming months and years. Using Alberta's constitutionally protected provincial rights, the Government of Alberta will return to a more stable number of primarily economic migrants so that newcomers come here to work and contribute as they have historically done, while Canadian citizens living in Alberta are given first priority to the social programs, jobs, and opportunities our economy creates. Investment and infrastructure. And although right-sizing Alberta's growth rate is critical, our province cannot afford waiting to make the investments in infrastructure that are needed to catch up with the growth that has already occurred. This is why your government will invest $8.6 billion to open up 200,000 new school spaces across the province over the coming years. That's also why your government will hire thousands of new teachers and educational assistants over the next 3 years. It's why Alberta will spend billions more in expanding road networks across the province, including completion of the Deerfoot Trail expansion in Calgary, the Yellowhead in Edmonton, and twinning Highway 3 in southern Alberta, Highway 11 in central Alberta, and Highway 63 in northern Alberta, along with the continued improvements to Highways 88 and 686 in northern Alberta. It's why your government will invest in the expansion of Edmonton's and Calgary's light rail transit systems and roll out a provincial passenger rail strategy that will see commuter rail built out over the coming decades to ease the growing burden on the QE2 and Trans-Canada highways. We can't, after all, keep adding lanes on these congested roadways forever. As Alberta continues to grow, public transit must be part of the solution. This government will also continue to invest hundreds of millions in municipal infrastructure for our growing communities and open thousands of new spaces at our post-secondary institutions, targeting most new investment for those programs in the trades, AI, health, and other sectors where Albertans and our economy have the most need. Your government will also hire hundreds of new police officers, modernize and expand court services, reduce red tape, and work to decrease and slow the rise of electricity and insurance costs through the implementation of the province's reformed electricity market and Care First auto insurance system. This government will continue to make the investments in infrastructure and social services that Albertans need. And it will continue to reform and modernize our province's social services to ensure that Albertans are enjoying the most choice and highest quality of any services in Canada. And there is no more important social services than health care. Health care. Honourable members, for far too long in this province and country, the growing crisis in our provincial public health care systems has been neglected. This government believes that Canada's healthcare systems are broken. They are typically administered by large, unaccountable bureaucracies that have centralized power and control at the expense of frontline staff and healing patients. Our country has among the poorest health system outcomes in the industrialized world, often resulting in tragic and life-shortening consequences. We have well-trained and compassionate doctors, nurses, and other frontline staff, but have difficulty keeping them in Canada due to subpar working conditions, rationed operating room time, and better opportunities in other nations. And no matter how much money this country and province spend, the results have not materially improved. In fact, they are deteriorating in every single province, whether governed by Liberals, New Democrats, or Conservatives. Honourable members, this government decided 2.5 years ago that it would take action rather than continue to throw billions of tax dollars into an underperforming and unambitious AHS bureaucracy. Instead, your government acted decisively to reform our provincial health system, and although it has not been without its challenges, we are seeing improvements each and every day. Wait times for surgical services are coming down. The number of doctors and nurses is increasing. Less is being spent on bureaucracy and more on the front lines. And with the transfer of authority over the administration of Alberta healthcare system from AHS to 4 targeted health agencies overseen directly by a dedicated and accountable government ministry, Alberta is now well positioned to further accelerate desperately needed healthcare reforms. The Ministry of Mental Health and Addiction is well down the path of implementing the world-renowned Alberta Recovery Model for Addiction with the construction of 11 recovery communities and is poised to commence operations of the Compassionate Intervention Program that will mandate treatment in secure facilities for addicts who are a danger to themselves and others. The Alberta model has already saved thousands, and compassionate intervention will save thousands more. The Ministry of Assisted Living and Social Services is doing essential work across our province health system, ensuring our seniors find community care with the level of support they require for their medical needs. They are leading a new effort to transfer non-acute patients, primarily seniors who have spent hundreds of days living in a hospital bed, into accommodations for far better suited for their care and quality of life. This will not only result in better care for those individuals, but will also free up hundreds of acute hospital beds for Albertans with more urgent needs. This government's third area of focus in health is primary and preventative care, because every dollar invested wisely in prevention means less premature death, higher quality of life, and significantly fewer tax dollars spent on expensive surgeries and hospital care. With the new doctor's contract focused on quality of patient care rather than quantity of visits, and this government's empowerment of nurse practitioners to open their own practices, Albertans are more able to secure the primary care they and their families need. This government will go a step further on health prevention and introduce new legislation that empowers Albertans with more choices by leveraging access to private diagnostic tests and screening using the latest AI and other emerging technologies. This means that individuals and their employers will be able to invest directly in the preventative healthcare needs of themselves, their families, and their employees. And although stronger preventative care will decrease the need for more serious medical interventions, there inevitably will always be a need for hospital and surgical services. However, the outdated model of building massive new multi-billion-dollar hospitals that take half a decade or more to build and then are almost always underused when opened must end. That is why this government is pursuing a different path and will focus precious tax dollars and efforts on increasing specialized chartered surgical centers that will compete along with AHS, Covenant Health, and other providers to deliver more surgeries and treatments faster. This government will do so by moving away from a wasteful and inefficient block funding model for our public hospital towards a more competitive and responsive activity-based funding model. This new model will increase transparency by paying public hospitals and surgical centers for the amount and complexity of the services they actually provide patients, ensuring that no longer will bureaucrats try to guess which facilities should receive more tax dollars with no accountability for the services provided. The days of an antiquated, bureaucratic, and unaccountable health system are over, honourable members. Albertans want more surgeries and better results from their healthcare system, and it's time to bring that system out of the 1960s and into 2025, where the rest of the world's developed nations already reside. Justice and public safety. And just as access to world-class health care when and where Albertans need it is critically important, so too is the need for safe communities and the protection of personal rights and freedoms. Policies such as safe supply, criminal first bail and sentencing rules, social engineering of children, and institutionalized censorship are just a few examples of policies that have needlessly destroyed and even ended the lives of thousands in our country. This government has taken a stand against these dangerous and destructive policies when few other governments in the Western world would. Alberta will continue to march forward with the freedom and justice policies and initiatives that save lives and make communities safe. This government will fund, not defund, the police. It will seek justice for victims, not excuses for the guilty. It will replace the enabling of continued drug use for the addicted while providing treatment and a means to recovery. It will protect the rights of law-abiding gun owners by refusing to enforce any federal seizure program and focus instead on fighting real criminals and securing our borders against them. It will lift up and support those who struggle with mental health rather than give them the means to end their lives because of it. And while Ottawa and other governments around the world seek to institutionalize the censorship of free speech, your government will forge an accelerated path in the opposite direction with legislation that contains comprehensive free speech protections for regulated professionals. This new legislation, when combined with the Alberta Bill of Rights amendments passed last year, will solidify Alberta's status as the freest jurisdiction in Canada. And, honourable members, Alberta will unapologetically protect our province's children by removing graphic pornographic images from schools, ensuring children reach adulthood before choosing to change their gender, and protecting the critical role and status of parents as the primary caregiver and decision maker for their children. This government will never back down in its protection of children or strengthening the rights and freedoms that have made our province the shining city on a hill that it is today. Sovereignty and independence. In closing, honourable members, this government has been clear and will continue to be so. Your government believes in a strong, free, and sovereign Alberta within a united Canada. Sovereignty does not mean separation. Strength and self-determination do not have to mean national independence. And one can love this province with all their heart and love our nation just as much. In fact, it is your government's view that both Canada and Alberta can only succeed when a proper constitutional balance has been restored and Alberta is empowered to freely pursue its full potential, while Ottawa focuses its efforts on key areas of federal jurisdiction. The vast majority of Albertans understand this need for change in our federal-provincial relationship, and that is why your government has spent the last several months meeting with thousands of Albertans in Alberta Next town halls that have been viewed by over 750,000 people in every corner of this province. That panel is now deliberating on what was heard and learned during these meetings, and it will soon make recommendations as to what initiatives are worth pursuing immediately to strengthen Alberta's sovereignty within Canada, and which initiatives should be put to a referendum of Albertans. And your government does not fear that will or judgment of Albertans. In fact, it is the will and judgment of Albertans that this government shall uphold and serve whatever the people ultimately decide. Your government is also actively negotiating with the federal government to gain additional pipeline access to Asian, European, and US markets, and to remove or overhaul several federal laws and policies that have profoundly damaged Alberta's economy for the last decade. Reaching a grand bargain between Alberta and Canada to restore these provincial rights and economic freedoms is critical. Because at the end of it all, Albertans will be the ones to decide the future of our province, and they will choose what they see as the best path forward to prosperity for their children, grandchildren, and fellow Albertans. And in doing so, our magnificent province and its people shall remain forever strong and free. Thank you, honourable members. May God bless Alberta, and may God save the King.
Order. All rise, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would now invite Ariana Whitlow, accompanied by the Royal Canadian Artillery Band, to lead us in the singing of God Save the King. Please remain standing at the conclusion.
God save our gracious King, long live our noble King. God save the King. Send him victorious, happy
Please be seated. Honourable members, I would like to draw your attention to the portraits of their Majesties, King Charles III and Queen Camilla, that were recently installed in our legislative chamber, and provide you with some additional information about them. The photographs for the official Canadian portraits of their Majesties were taken in June of 2024 in the White Drawing Room at Buckingham Palace by photographer Millie Pilkington, one of the most accomplished portrait photographers in the United Kingdom. Both portraits have elements in them that are uniquely Canadian. King Charles is wearing the insignia of the Order of Canada on a ribbon around His Majesty's neck. The King is also wearing a bar of medals from Canada, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom on the left breast of his jacket. Queen Camilla is wearing the maple leaf brooch, which is made of platinum and studded with diamonds. The brooch was first presented by King George VI to his wife, Queen Elizabeth, on the occasion of their first royal tour of Canada in 1939, a tour which took them to Alberta. Another interesting fact is that Alberta is one of the first legislatures in Canada to display the portraits of their Majesties in its legislative chamber. I have the honor to table a copy of the speech graciously given by Her Majesty, or by Her Honor, the Honourable, the Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request leave to introduce Bill 1, the International Agreements Act. This bill sends a clear message: Alberta's jurisdiction is protected, and decisions that shape our future will be made right here at home. The bill is being introduced to address gaps in current legislation beyond the limit of trade and investment to cover all agreements. If passed, international agreements impacting provincial jurisdiction will only become enforceable in Alberta if implemented under provincial legislation. With that, Mr. Speaker, I hereby move first reading of Bill 1, the International Agreements Act.
Here, here, here.
The Honourable Premier has requested leave to introduce Bill 1, the International Agreements Act. Would all those in favour of granting leave please say aye? Aye. Would all those opposed please say no? So ordered.
A bill, being the International Agreements Act, introduced by the Honourable Ms. Smith, is now read a first time.
The Honourable Premier.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the speech of Her Honour, the Honourable, the Lieutenant Governor, to this Assembly be taken into consideration the week of October 27, 2025.
Honourable members, having heard the motion as proposed by the Honourable Premier, would all those in favour of the motion please say aye? Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is wonderful to be back, but with that, I move that the Assembly be adjourned until 1:30 p.m. on Monday, October 27th, 2025.
Honourable members, having heard the motion by the Honourable Government House Leader, all those in favour of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. The Assembly stands adjourned until Monday, October 27, 2025 at 1:30 p.m.
Order.